Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is made possible in part by GID and by Commonwealth Land Title NCS New York.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Beckham, Chief Investment Officer at Buckingham Companies, here at Waterline Square and ready to film Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Schein.
And I'm Mitch Berkey.
Welcome to Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch. And Mitch, do you know who we have here today?
I do. We are honored to have in our studio Jeffrey Beckham, Chief Investment Officer of Buckingham Companies.
Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for joining us today. So let's get started. Let's go right off the bat. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Buckingham Companies and your role there?
So Buckingham is a vertically integrated investor, developer, manager, what I call the living sector. So it's not just multifamily. We're also doing build-to-rent housing. We'll do student, university adjacent, and active adult. So anywhere that you rent from the time you're 18 till right before assisted living, we're invested in, we'll develop and generate returns.
Well, that's quite a lifespan of apartments. And so let me ask you something. You talked about student housing, right? And I think that's where Buckingham Companies got its start?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple places, but our founder, CEO, Brad Chambers, started the firm 40 years ago as a student at Indiana University. Wow. At IU. So
that's the Bloomington campus.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, beautiful.
Took a landscaping business and turned it into Water's first property and started there. So there are roots in the university-centric housing there in Buckingham, and grew to what it is today.
And so, how many beds do you have now?
We've got overall about 15,000 units under management, and that's spread across the student, active adult, BTR, and multifamily.
So Jeff, we are going to get into your journey, how you got to Buckingham. But tell us a little bit about your role as Chief Investment Officer. What is a day like?
So I'm overseeing the investment management platform. That encompasses everything from bringing in the capital, deploying the capital, and then managing that capital to make sure that we're able to perform for our investors and generate the returns that we told them we were going to generate.
And are those in a fund structure or direct?
Fund structure for the most part, and then we've got certain joint ventures on our more opportunistic projects.
And so let me ask you something. You mentioned the panache, as it were. I like that word, panache.
That's a big word. That's a big word, Jonathan.
So with the types of residential units you own and manage, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges? What sectors are challenging right now, if any?
Well, multifamily development is challenging at the moment. Rents are not where they need to be to really justify multifamily construction. And with development costs where they are and interest rates, that's the biggest challenge. But it also creates an opportunity on the acquisition side. So there's never a sector where you're completely out of it at the moment. And it's always hard to buy and invest. If it were easy, everyone would do it.
But Jeff, those elements must vary by market and submarket.
Yeah.
So for the rest of this year and into 26, what markets are you targeting?
So we focus Midwest, Southeast, and Mountain West is our sweet spot. Indianapolis-based firm, so Midwest roots there, but have invested throughout those regions, not in the coastal markets, staying away from those, high barrier, much more expensive. See a relative risk return attractive profile in the Midwest, where you get higher yields and a little bit more stability. And pairing that with the higher growth markets in the Mountain West and the Southeast creates a nice risk-adjusted return portfolio.
Would you say that's more suburban than urban?
We've done both, and it depends on the market. Everything is market specific. So in the Midwest, we've been in CBDs in Cincinnati and Indianapolis. We're in urban markets in Atlanta, but also suburban in Nashville, Raleigh-Durham as well, suburban Denver, but also in those urban markets as well.
So let me ask you something in regards to the student housing part. Just I want to go back to that. Is most of that, you said off-campus housing?
Some of it's on campus. We've got a combination of on-campus student by the bed. We also have a university adjacent where we attract a lot of grad students and professors, faculty at the university, but build it in conjunction with the university. So between it, Notre Dame, IU, Cleveland State, for
big
example.
Names.
Yeah, we've done a number of projects.
Is there always that university cooperation component, or can you do it on your own?
We could do it on our own, but that private partnership with the university can create some really attractive results.
Well, so does that create an infrastructure platform, or is it actually a real estate platform?
Definitely real estate platform, because it's at the end of the day we're still talking about the beds.
It's beds rather than units when you talk student housing, right?
Yes, indeed. So it's a bit different. The lease up and management is a bit different there for the student housing part, but it's a very attractive sector, and understanding the dynamics at the actual university. So as we talk about markets, your student markets are not the same as our multifamily and BTR markets, given the dynamics there.
And talk about BTR. That's relatively new in this sector. Why don't you talk about the strategy there?
So that's kind of filling the hole in the donut, so to speak, is home ownership has gotten increasingly unaffordable, be it higher mortgage rates, there's not a lot of supply out there, demand is down for housing, saving up for that down payment, but as people get older, want more space, you start to see there's the lack of options there. BTR helps to fill that, where you're still a renter, but you're able to get the space of a 3-bedroom home in a community that's managed as a multifamily community. One interesting fact is everyone thinks that BTR residents are just people who are renters and have kids and move out of the apartment, they need a bigger space. About 40% or so of BTR renters don't have children.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by GID and Commonwealth Land Title NCS New York.
Commercial real estate is evolving, bringing new challenges and new opportunities. At Commonwealth Land Title National Commercial Services New York, we provide trusted guidance, deep commercial experience, and seamless coordination on complex transactions grounded in local insight and backed by national resources. Commonwealth Land Title, NCS New York, trusted to move your most complex transactions forward.
You just touched on what would have been my next question, and that is, what do you find to be the key demographic in the BTR space?
So there is that group that or renters have children, need more space, but you get a lot of empty nesters, people who had big homes, they want to downsize, but not go straight to an apartment, but also don't want to be tied down with another mortgage. So this gives them the ability to have a home, 3-bedroom, have the space, but they're renting. And they don't need to save up for that down payment, and they're not tied to a mortgage as they want to stay more mobile in these years now without the children. And then you start to see there's a strong cohort of people who have 2 incomes, no kids, want more space, want to get out the apartment, move out a little further, and enjoy the yard and the life of that suburban living.
And what's the average amount of, I guess, homes in one of your BTR developments?
Will range from 150 to 175, depending.
All freestanding?
So we'll do a mix of townhome developments and also single-family detached.
Okay.
So single-family detached will skew on the smaller side, just given the land constraints and the density. But for our townhome communities, that's when you'll start to get up to the 175 units.
And so has that created management problems that that Buckingham didn't have before? Was it a whole new way of having to deal with property management on that level?
Challenges, maybe. Challenges.
Yeah, I would say problems. In a large part, it's like managing a garden-style multifamily community.
Okay.
But there are nuances in, say, your landscaping and lawn maintenance. Everybody has their own individual yard, yet we're responsible for the maintenance for everyone's yard, and how you manage the water, cutting the grass, and so forth for all of these individual lawns in a single-family detached property. So, there's nuances there, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily too many challenges above and beyond a garden-style multifamily company.
And how important are amenities in the BTR sector?
Not as much as you would think. We'll have, depending on the size of the complex, a clubhouse, but you're not necessarily doing a pool.
No pickleball?
Yeah. We do have
Pickleball's the
pickleball
rage now.
we do have pickleball at one community, but you're not building the full gym that you
Yeah.
would normally see, all the shared amenities. What's interesting is the people who are looking for the benefits of having a home without the burden of home ownership. If you think about it, in most home ownership communities, you don't see big clubhouses, huge gyms. Typically, it's just a collection of homes. There might be in some cases a pool, but it's not the standard or the norm or common. So you see that also in the BTR space, more so with the single-family detached projects.
Well, let's talk about some of your other responsibilities, because it looks like a three-legged stool here. Okay, so raising capital today.
Yeah.
We all hear it's challenging, but let's hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I mean it is.
See, I didn't use problem, I said challenging.
Challenge.
Yes.
Diplomatic.
Extremely challenging. I mean, it's an environment people have compared to 2009, 2010,
Really?
Where it was obviously nearly impossible to raise capital in some of those early days coming out of the GFC. There's a flywheel, so to speak, with capital in terms of transaction activity. People are buying, people are selling. The people who are selling are taking that capital, returning it to investors, and then redeploying it with existing managers or new managers into new opportunities. And that cycle just keeps going and feeding on itself. Transaction activity has slowed down the last few years, so you're not seeing capital return to investors, who are in turn don't have capital to deploy to new managers or existing managers to then try to go buy assets when there's not much transaction activity. So we've been at this frozen, so to speak, in the market. We needed to thaw a bit more to get that flywheel working into a virtuous circle versus the vicious cycle we've been in.
Very interesting. So that brings us to the other leg of the stool. How are you finding the investment market, the acquisition market?
It's a challenge. There's still a wide bid-ask spread, buyers and sellers. It's narrowing in some respects.
Are you saying that sellers are not yet realistic? Is that what you're saying?
They have belief in the value of their assets that they're trying to sell.
Well, they have investors too.
True.
Yes, and understand. I mean, also on our side, financial structures, debt structures also play into this as well. You see in the marketplace, there's a big wait and see. Everyone's hoping, like, if we wait a little longer, something's going to change.
Do you think it's interest rate related, or are there other factors?
Interest rates are definitely a huge part of that, and you could say we ended up into this cycle that we're in when interest rates started to rise, fairly dramatically. So that's the big part. People waiting to see. There's a lot of noise in politics, geopolitical. Everyone's, let's wait and see how this plays out, wait and see. And waiting, it just perpetuates the, well, I don't get in trouble for doing something today. I can wait and see if it gets better. If no one has to sell, then they're not going to sell in this market because there's belief if I wait, I might be able to do a little bit better.
And that differs between institutional owner sellers and families that may have unique issues within the family tree, arguing whether it's the right time, and it's a generational issue.
Yes. We'll see, and especially in some of the properties that we'll invest in, some of the more value-add assets where you get into less institutional ownership, you'll see different motivations for sellers than you would see necessarily on the institutional front, which makes every deal interesting, and there's no broad brush that you can paint the market and opportunities out there.
If it was easy, anyone could do it, Jeff.
Exactly.
Right?
So you come from a really much stronger, like bigger bank, bigger PE firm, institutional background, and now you're more in an entrepreneurial setting. Would you say that most of the investors, I don't like to use the word most, but would you say a lot of them are sort of in the family office realm, or has Buckingham been able to crack the institutional?
No, Buckingham has institutional LPs and has had through multiple funds now. So I was brought in to help broaden that platform and the investor base. But it's a firm that still has managed to keep its entrepreneurial roots while branching out into the institutional capital space, which is part of what really attracted me to the firm.
Can I just go back to that capital space, which was the first leg of that stool we talked about a few moments ago? Are you raising capital into a fund structure, or are you raising into a deal-by-deal basis, a combination? How are the funds coming in, and how are they being deployed?
So we'll do both. We've done funds in the past. We'll also do deal-by-deal for certain projects. So we're capturing capital in both structures.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by GID and Commonwealth Land Title NCS New York.
Commercial real estate is evolving, bringing new challenges and new opportunities. At Commonwealth Land Title National Commercial Services New York, we provide trusted guidance, deep commercial experience, and seamless coordination on complex transactions grounded in local insight and backed by national resources. Commonwealth Land Title, NCS New York, trusted to move your most complex transactions forward.
So let's go back to what we were talking about. You came over to, first of all, the name Buckingham, okay? They got Buckingham.com. How did they not get into a hassle with the royal family?
I don't know. Apparently for not.
Did you get a waiver from the Queen?
This was, it said, set up long before I got to the firm, but it's the name is to the heart of the family of our founder, Brad Chambers, and as he's built up the firm at over 40 years.
So that at least there's somewhere he got to Buckingham.
Yes.
But I just wanted to put that out there. It's an amazing factoid that someone was able to get Buckingham.com. Back to Jeff. Okay. So let's talk about you. This is really the crux of what we want to do here, is learn about the individual behind the firm and the people within them.
And your journey, how you got from your humble beginnings to this lofty position.
We don't know they were humble.
Well, we're going to find out.
Were they humble?
Yes,
Okay.
and I've had a winding road.
Okay. So why don't you talk about where you started from?
So, I mean, born in Detroit, grew up outside of Washington, D.C., so Midwest and Mid-Atlantic roots, but heavy family from Detroit, went to school at University of Michigan, so went back to school in the Midwest, and started at Morgan Stanley Real Estate right out of college in New York, where I was in New York for about five and a half months.
Did they ship you out of the country?
Let me ask
Did they
you
ship you out?
Oh, hold on. Let me ask you something.
We'll get there.
How did you just end up at Morgan Stanley Real Estate? Most people in the industry start off and just say a completely different part of investment banking, and then they're assigned the real estate desk. How did you go directly to real estate?
So in college, undergrad business school at Michigan, I spent a summer on campus, and I wanted to be, well, first I wanted to be a lawyer, then I wanted to be a mutual fund manager. I was going to pick stocks, and I met a local Ann Arbor real estate developer. And I was at a talk that he did, during that summer, and thought, this real estate thing sounds interesting. So the fall starts, I take a real estate course. I said, this is pretty interesting. And for my internship, I interviewed at Citibank, and this is before it became Citigroup. This is Citibank, and I had real estate as an interest on my resume. And interviewing for an analyst position, the recruiter said, "I see real estate on your resume. You want to come back tomorrow? Normally, the real estate group only takes MBA interns, but I think you can handle it. Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure, I'm trying to get a job."
So you
as
made an
internship.
impression in that initial interview.
Yeah, so I came back the next day, got an internship in their loan workout group at
That's the
Citibank.
way to learn.
What year was that?
This was 1997.
Okay, they were still doing some workouts.
So it was, all this real estate, REO on the balance sheet, loans working through.
You're dissecting deals and really learning.
It was, and what really was kind of a launch pad for my career, my main job as the intern was, there was this new real estate program that just came out called Argus. And I was taking project models, this was the long ago predecessor to Argus, and converting them into Argus models. So I was building Argus models from scratch from project printouts.
That is so pre-AI.
But you were really in the trenches doing that.
Yeah, this is, like the nitty gritty
Probably
of
sitting there
real
saying
estate.
I should pick mutual funds. I got to be a stock.
My first day on the job, my boss gave me a lease for one of the New York buildings. So it was a classic New York lease. It's 125 pages. He said, "Read this, we'll go to lunch, talk about it, you can ask questions." So spent my whole morning, read this lease. We sit down for lunch, and he goes, "Fundamental value of all real estate is determined by this document. You figure out leases, you understand real estate." And he was right.
That's great advice.
Went from there.
And so you were at Citi,
Yep.
and then that was during college, and then you got recruited by Morgan Stanley?
Directly into the real estate group. They
Right,
were
right out of school, right out of the 4-year undergraduate degree?
Yep.
Right in?
That's incredible.
Morgan Stanley, the real estate group was a bit unique where they would do their own direct recruiting outside of the general analyst recruiting at Morgan Stanley. Because I specialized, did an internship in real estate, I was able to come right into the real estate group there and started in the analyst training. But because I knew how to use Argus, we hired 21 analysts into real estate that year. Huge class. Only 2 of us knew how to use Argus. So we got pulled out early and started work before training finished.
That's an incredible story right then and there, because nobody knows how we get here, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people know, even if they know what Argus is anymore, right? But it's sort of like, I program Fortran or COBOL, right?
I did that. I did those.
I did that too. But so it's amazing that you just used that one opportunity, that one skill, and a little bit of luck to get into that program.
So loan workouts, and what did that morph into?
So one of the reasons why I liked Morgan Stanley coming out of school was it was one of the few, if not the only, bank on the street where analysts could work across advisory, investment banking, principal investing, and securitization lending, all as an analyst. Every other bank you had to specialize. You either worked for the private equity division, you worked in investment banking, you worked in lending. So you got to see a little bit of everything.
Within real estate or the entire bank?
Within real estate.
Okay.
That's a broad-based background. That's valuable.
It was great. So, my desk, I had a little bit of everything until, I said, about 5.5 months in. Actually, less than that. I get tapped on the shoulder to say, "We need you to go to London tomorrow to go work on a pitch."
May I ask, did you happen to have a passport at the ready?
I did not have a passport. At this time, I had been to 2 countries, Canada and Mexico, and back then you didn't need a passport to go. And I hadn't flown to those countries. We're talking just driving across the border at Detroit, and then I had gone to Tijuana once on a school trip.
That's a separate episode. We'll talk about that.
So I had to, completely panic. My birth certificate is at my parents' house. I had them fax over a copy of my birth certificate.
Okay, we're talking faxing.
Yes, so definitely showing my age. Took it to the passport office the next morning, and the person said, "You can't get a passport with a fax copy of a birth certificate." And I'm like, I'm supposed to fly out tonight, and I don't want to tell Morgan Stanley I actually didn't have a passport. And there was an elderly gentleman who was standing behind him, in the desk, and he comes over and he says, "See, you're a young kid. I don't want to see you fall on your face, first job." It's like, "We can get this processed. Give me a few hours." I got a U.S. passport issued in 3.5 hours.
Wow.
6 hours before my flight. Hopped on the plane to London.
Now, did Morgan Stanley know anything about this,
Nope.
or you kept it under wraps?
I kept it under wraps. I had to pay $125
That was
for
a
the
lot then.
processing
actually.
fee.
That was a lot.
But to get it 3.5 hours, that was
Yeah.
exceptional. Hopped on a plane and flew over to London, and basically worked around the clock for a week and a half on this pitch. Didn't even get a chance to go to the actual pitch meeting. Came back on a Saturday to New York. Was thinking, okay, I got to go to London. That was fun. Throw a bunch of clothes in the laundry. Get to work on Monday. I'm at the elevator bank about to go down for lunch. They grab me and say, "Looking over for you. We want you to go back to London tonight. Stay out there till Thanksgiving," which was maybe 3 weeks later. "Come back, pack up your things, and go out for 6 months." And I call my parents.
What
My
are they
dad's
thinking
like,
at this point?
My dad's like, "They're asking you to go. Like, go."
You gotta go. You got to go.
So, I barely have any clean clothes. I rush home. They book my ticket. I go back out there, and 6 months turned into 9 months, turned into a year, turned into almost 2 years, working over at Morgan Stanley in the London office.
And then you kind of moved around from there.
You've been in other major capitals in Europe.
Yes. So there were some, since I went over there so fast, it was just go over there, start working. At the time, there were 3 analysts for the whole continent, and business is booming. So this is late 1998, and they sent me over there, but didn't have the time to go through the formal work permit process. So I'm over there working. There was another analyst that was over there who was European, so didn't have the same issues. And another associate was sent over to London, but then got detained for saying he was going to work for Morgan Stanley and didn't have a work permit. So he gets sent back. Morgan Stanley decides, we need to get this kid a work permit. He's sitting here working without one, but you can't be in the country while you process a work permit. Now, normally I would go back to the US and continue working until my work permit was processed. But the powers that be in London decided, if we send him back to New York may keep him, so we need to keep him over here. So there was
turf battle over Jeff.
He's a very impressive person.
I was just a pawn on the chessboard. So the plan was derived to have me work in various Morgan Stanley offices while my work permit was being processed. So I started off with a week in the Madrid office, worked on a couple of deals, private equity deals there, went to the Paris office. Then after that, we actually went to MIPIM, the real estate conference in Cannes. Then I left there. We had our analyst ski trip. Left there, went back to the Madrid office.
We're going to come back to that ski trip, but go ahead.
This is a Where's Waldo kind of episode. This is amazing.
And I'm living out of multiple suitcases this whole time, practically all the clothes I own, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back to London. And then after the Madrid office, went to the Amsterdam office. I think I spent a week in the Amsterdam office, just literally living out of a suitcase. And this is a time before there's no smartphones, there's no Wi-Fi. It's all dial-up, so it's not like I'm walking around with the iPad or iPhone or even a laptop. They didn't give analysts laptops back then. So I'm having to go into the office every day in all these various cities and work. And this is a kid who didn't have a passport, 4 months ago.
That's an amazing experience, but you're young, you're untethered, not too many deep obligations, so why not?
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. Looking back, it was, I recommend it to everyone. My circumstances were a bit unique. You can't plan that out, but it was a great experience.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by GID and Commonwealth Land Title NCS New York.
Commercial real estate is evolving, bringing new challenges and new opportunities. At Commonwealth Land Title National Commercial Services New York, we provide trusted guidance, deep commercial experience, and seamless coordination on complex transactions grounded in local insight and backed by national resources. Commonwealth Land Title, NCS New York, trusted to move your most complex transactions forward.
I think this is an important lesson for our viewers, some of whom think in terms of some of the larger institutional players and the glamour associated with it, right?
It's, glamour. I mean, I did live out of a suitcase for 5 weeks, but it is one of my, bosses said, he's like, it's not like you were backpacking around Europe.
Yeah, right. In youth hostels, right? And so then you ended up in Asia, from what I understand.
Yes. So after finishing your 2 years, you normally will switch offices or switch groups. Wanted to stay in real estate, but at this point, I've already worked in the U.S. office. I've worked in Europe for now a substantial amount of time. They needed help in the Tokyo office, so I somewhat naively thought,
let's do it.
I've worked in Italy. I don't speak Italian.
Right.
I can go out to Japan, and they need a hand. I'll go out there and help them out.
It was so easy, wasn't it?
It was, the only place in the world that I've been to where you stand on a street corner at a Wednesday at 2 p.m. and as far as you can see, you're the only non-Japanese person, and that's when it hits you. Like, I'm not in Kansas anymore. I am, in a different world. But it was honestly the most fun I've ever had in my life.
How long was that stint in Tokyo?
It was a full year.
Full year?
Yeah, August to August. It was great experience. We're buying very different real estate. It was a lot of NPLs, bankrupt life insurance companies, banks, large portfolios, but great experience. Worked with some really, really great people over in Tokyo. Still to this day, some great friends, and it was a true learning experience.
So you're no more than 25, 26 years old when this is happening.
24.
24 years
Yes.
old. I mean, the world of experience that you gained in those first 3 or 4 years of your professional experience is amazing, and apparently it's paying off right now. And where are you from there? I mean, we want to go real quick, but where did you go from there?
So I went back to London and joined Heinz.
Okay.
Wanted to get closer to the real estate, work for a developer operator intentionally. Heinz was building their European platform, so went out there for a couple of years. And then after fully investing there, European Development Fund 1, decided, okay, it's been 5 years overseas, want to get back to the U.S. At that time, so made the transition, moved back to the U.S. and started working with Tishman Speyer here in New York City, which was also a great experience. And I'll say one of the things with kids today, the younger ones, and working in the office and having that experience of getting the mentorship. There's one thing which is the mentorship of how to use the model to underwrite assets or look at comps. I had the fortunate experience to be in the room with Gerald Hines, who was semi-retired in London when I was working there, being in the room with Jerry Speyer and hearing how they think. Just being in the room, don't say a word, I'm just sitting there, but hearing how they think and how, about the real estate, what makes a good investment or a bad investment or how they want to approach it, that's really the benefit, one of the best benefits of younger people being in the office and doing those meetings in person. That I think is a little bit lost.
Wow, so there's a book in the making with a lot of big personalities in your life. So bring us...
And mentoring, if I may add, we talked that subject with everyone that sat in your chair, and it's such an integral part of the journey, finding the right mentor, putting that time in. And again, to your point, in this current generation, which has lived through COVID and the hybrid work environment, being back in the office is really where you get the top level mentorship.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely right. And the Morgan Stanley Alumni Network has been huge for me, not just my peer set, but there are people running global companies that I worked for when they first made managing director and I was an analyst. So you see the same people in this industry year in, year out. The name tags may change at the conferences, but it's the same people.
And so let's talk about what you're doing now. You told us a little bit about Buckingham, and just how did this, you said you wanted to get closer to the real estate, working with Hines and with Tishman Speyer. I mean, you were at some larger firms, and now you're at a much more entrepreneurial company. How are you enjoying that? I mean, I know it's only been about 4 or 5 months since you've joined, but are you finding that it's a different type of world for you?
And also, if I may, how did that match get made? How did you get on each other's radar screens?
Yeah, so I'll say I love growth. I love developing platforms, growing platforms, companies that want to grow, have a growth plan, and in facilitating that growth, it's one thing for a company that's 30 billion AUM to grow to 40 billion AUM. It's another thing with a company that's 3 billion AUM growing to 10 billion AUM. I think the latter is much more fun. It's very interesting, and it's a totally different experience than the former. And
it sounds like you could be more impactful in that scenario.
Exactly. And so that's what really attracted me to the opportunity here at Buckingham. It was a company that wants to grow, has the infrastructure to grow, has the track record and the bones, but in really the great people. So it was, all we needed is just a little push in the direction, and to be a part of that growth was really attractive and exciting to me, and to really help drive that.
And do you see, I mean, you talked about pretty much where the strategies are. Do you see the strategies expanding into other areas, or are you going to pretty much stick with residential?
Yeah, I think let's stick to what we're good at. We don't need to be all things to everyone. There are GPs in the marketplace that can serve that. Let's be great at what we're great at, and deliver that to investors. So I'm excited about that and the opportunity.
So also, taking in a little different direction, it seems like real estate's kind of a family affair, as it were. Apparently,
I think we have a power couple here.
A power couple, absolutely. Yes. That's a great way of putting it.
Yes, no, my wife, Angela Johnson, also works in the industry and has been for a number of years. And so we will make appearances at conferences here and there. And
down the runway.
Yeah, we don't talk shop as much as people might think we do, but it's also nice to have someone who truly understands exactly what it is you do on a day in, day out basis, and vice versa.
And who takes whose advice in that couple?
I don't know. She's brilliant, so I would be an idiot not to listen to her advice.
As most of us are.
Yes. It's the right answer.
Yeah,
but true answer.
Yes, no. It's great, and her experience has been more on the capital side. So getting her perspectives and insights about how to build the relationships and to really position has been huge for me.
So Mitch always asks this question, but I'm going to steal your thunder
Please go
today.
ahead. Go ahead.
If you were going to give some advice to someone coming up in the industry, what would your advice be to them?
Yeah, we have a group of our viewers that listen to folks in your seat, and they think, how do I do that? How do I become Jeff Beckham? What's the secret?
So I think definitely early on, get as much exposure as you can to everything. Don't pigeonhole. So really see asset management, see acquisitions, development. I think don't discount the asset management piece. Every acquisitions person is better for it if they have to live with their underwriting. And so
there's a quote right there.
Yeah. Listen. We've all been around long enough to know the historical headbutting between acquisitions and asset management.
Yeah. So spending
it's
that
healthier
time,
if they work together.
Definitely healthier, but also helps with acquisitions have had to actually spend time on the other side. It helps them become better acquisitions people. But it's, I think, get that broad exposure to as many different aspects of the industry, because it's all so intertwined, and don't specialize until you really, really have to. And really, it's just, put your head down and, work to learn as much as you can. Listen, observe, and really, soak all that in.
I think we're ready.
We're almost ready we have a lightning round, Jeff.
Okay.
Where we ask questions which have no bearing on what we've talked about for the last several minutes during this great sit down with you, which we really appreciate.
Okay.
But a little probing. There's no wrong or right answers, but let's start.
Okay.
Aside from present company, who's the coolest famous person you've ever met?
The coolest famous person, Ben Affleck.
Really? Okay. Where was that?
That was actually in Tokyo.
Oh, there's a story here. There's a story
There's some
here.
sake that we need to uncover. Okay.
That's an episode 2 right there.
Jeff, Colts or Falcons?
Falcons.
Makes sense.
That makes
Home
sense.
team.
Hometown team.
Absolutely.
All right, that's fair enough. That's hometown. And I'll end the lightning round with a question we ask everyone in your chair. Is it better to be lucky or good?
Lucky.
But as I like to say, you make your own luck. Isn't that part of the key?
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, for my career, I've managed to hit twists and turns that part of it was just I was in the right place at the right time. I had the right skill set at that right particular time. Hit a time in the market where I made a move and didn't intentionally make it because of this, but it worked out very well that I made such a move at that particular point in time. So it's, you can't predict a lot of these things, so there's an element of luck that it comes with all of it.
Jeffrey Beckham, Chief Investment Officer, Buckingham Companies, thank you for joining us on Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch.
Thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch was made possible in part by GID and Commonwealth Land Title NCS, New York.